Hey y'all, it's JJ with Baby Girl Craftin', and I just wanted to show you the prototype of what we're gonna be making. So this is the prototype. This is just a little bowl, and what you're gonna need for this tutorial is a hook, some snips or scissors, and yarn. Now this is specifically designed to use the yarn for the Darn Good Yarn Box for November, but this will be, you can use this with any type of yarn. You're gonna want, probably, yours would be bigger, but you're gonna want a coarse yarn, something that's gonna be structurally sound. So definitely a 4-ply or a 4, a thicker 4, not a thin 4. This would not hold up to a thin 4. Or maybe a 5. Then you're gonna wanna use a crochet hook that is what your yarn calls for. In this case, I'm using a 5mm, and that's what I got with that. So, I am going to include a pattern. Now, I've never written a pattern before, so I barely can read a pattern. But I'll put it in the description box below, but you're gonna probably wanna follow along with the tutorial so that you know what I'm talking about. But between the two, you should be able to figure out how to do this. I think it's cute. The yarn is still in here because I'm going to actually undo this bowl because this is the only yarn I have with me, and I'm going to redo it on camera for you guys. I've been playing with this yarn. Let's go ahead and get on with the tutorial. So the first thing we're gonna do is a slip stitch, and to do that, I just wrap my yarn over my finger, and then I wrap it a second time, and I put the second loop on the back. Then I go under the first loop with my hook, and hook the first, or that back loop, and pull it through, and then just tighten it. And then it's on there. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're gonna go into that first chain, so the first of the 4, and we're gonna do a slip stitch. So we're just making a circle. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Right there in the middle is a nice little hole. Since we're using this yarn, I find that it's very hard to pull on it, so I just use the chain stitch method instead, because we're going to be putting some stitches in the middle there. And I'm just marking it with my fingers, that's why I'm holding it like that. The next thing we're going to do is for row 1, we're going to chain 3, and this is going to count as our first double crochet, first double crochet. And then we're going to put 7 more double crochets into the center of this loop. So yarn over, through that center hole, pull through, and then complete your double crochet. So that's technically 2 because we've got the chain stitch, so I'm going to count it as 2 while I'm counting. 3, 4, and you may be way faster at this than I am, and that's fine. You can go ahead, and when we get to the 7th, or even to the 7th one, I'll show you how we close off this end. 4, and 5. Okay, so go ahead and finish the last 3, and I'll meet you back here. I have now completed 7. I'm going to do the 8th. And if you're wondering why this is here, it's just I've done and redone this project. I worked with this yarn so many times, I've left this here so that I can remember where my ends are. And I'll be snipping that off and then tying in my ends at the end. So now that we've done 8, we've got 8 in there, 7 and a chain. We're gonna slip stitch this into the, I'm having trouble with, okay, into that the top of that chain, so into the 3rd chain piece. So now we have our row 1 completed. So for row 2, Now that we're here, we're going to chain 1, and then in each one of these 8 double crochets, we're going to put 2 single crochets. So in this first one, this yarn is sometimes difficult to work with. Mind you, I've used this yarn like a ton of times, so it should be easier to work with than this. I guess I made them too tight, but I didn't think so. Okay, so single crochet 1, single crochet 2, and that's all in that one stitch. And then we're going to do it in the next stitch. There we go. Okay. Oops, single crochet. So the first round had 8 stitches, the next round is going to have 16 stitches. So we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So go ahead and finish the next 8, and then I'll show you how we do row 3. I'm back, and I have done 16 single crochets, and I'm going to slip stitch into that chain 1 that we did. And then now we are, as you can see, we're working on our base. So row 3, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and go around and put 2 double crochets or 2 single crochets into each stitch. We're expanding this. So we have 1, 2, so just a single crochet, 2 single crochets in each single crochet that we just did. So now we have 4. This is going to give us 32 stitches around this time. So go ahead and count your 32 stitches, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to do row 4. Now we've done 32 stitches around, and we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into our chain 1, which is right there. See, we're working on the base, so nice circle. Depending on how your yarn is, some spots it's thicker or not. You can see that it's not perfectly circular. I had a spot over here where I had some really thick yarn, so it kind of, this is why this is a good project, because it doesn't have to be like perfect. It's gonna have that homemade kind of feel to it. All right, so we've done row 1, 2, 3. Now we're gonna do row 4, and in row 4, to start row 4, we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to put 2 double crochets around. Now this, in this case, we're going to have the double crochet count. I don't always count my chain stitch, but this row is going to count. And right in next to it, we're going to do a double crochet. So in the same stitch, do a double crochet. So that's like a cluster of 2. Then in the first stitch, we're going to do 1 double crochet. And this is what we're going to do all the way around. 2 in the next one. Oops. So that's 1, 2, whoops, forgot to do my yarn over. And then in the next one, we're going to do just 1. And see how I have this like really big cluster? So that's what changes how it looks like, so it's not 100% symmetrical. After we've done this, when we get around, we'll have 48 stitches. So go ahead and do that repeat. 2, then 1, 2 double crochets, then 1 double crochet, then 2 double crochets, and 1 double crochet. And when we get around to the end, I'll we'll move on to the next row, row 5. All right, so I have 2 more stitches left to stitch into. So just to show you that the repeat again, it's 2 double crochets into the first. So that's 1. 2, and then 1 into that last. And then we're gonna slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. There you go. It's kind of, when I'm working with it, it kind of bunches up, but it flattens out really well. And once we get the walls or the sides on, it's really good. All right, so now we're going to chain 1. And this next stitch is where we're going to start building up our sides. So row 5, we are going to single crochet in the back loops, 1 single crochet in the back loop of each one of these double crochets we just did. So we chained 1, and then we're just going to do a single crochet in the back loop. Oops. So you can see the back loop. It's hard to see with this yarn, I know. But you have your little, I call it a V on the top. And so usually you stitch under both of them. In this case, we're gonna ignore the first one and just stitch into that back loop. And what this does is it's gonna help provide a little turning corner. So if you see, it'll even start, once you get a little bit in there, it'll start to poke up a little bit, where you can see that it's wanting to turn and make a side. So go ahead and finish around with a single crochet, oops, in the back loop of each one of your stitches, and I will meet you back at the end of row 5. So when you're going around on that row, you might want to start with a chain or a marker, just so you know where you started, because it's easy to just sit and go around in a circle, and we want to not do that. We want each row to be individual. But now I'm finished the single crochet, so I'm going to slip stitch into my chain 1 stitch. So there we go. So now we have a circle, and you're going to see that this starts to kind of fold up. And it's going to fold up more here in just a sec. And then eventually I do a decreased row just to give it a little bit more staying power. Okay, so in row 6, what we're going to do is just go around again and do a single crochet, but this time we're going through both stitches, or through the whole stitch, not the back rows, and we're just going to do a single crochet all the way around. Hold on just a sec. I'm staying with my sister, and I think I have her little puppy's hair in my... Okay. So what we are going to do now is just do a single crochet all the way around in all those single crochet stitches, and we're going to use the whole stitch, not just the back row. So this time go through the whole stitch and do a single crochet, and do that for all of them all the way around. And after you've done that, we'll come back and I will show you row 7. And row 7 is where I do a decrease. Just a minor decrease. I did it a couple times and I felt it made it look a little bit better. I still have straw in this yarn. Oh my word. Look at that's, I think, the biggest piece I've come up with so far. Oh well. Alright, so now that I'm done showing my straw, I will see you guys in a few minutes. Not sure what I did there. All right, so we're back to the beginning, and I'm gonna join this row at this and just do a slip stitch. Actually, I'm one short, so we'll go ahead and put that in. Now we're gonna join with a slip stitch, and that'll go up. But you can see how this is, oops, see how this is starting to form a ridge. There we go. And that. And if we were doing this bigger, I don't think this decrease row would be necessary. But because this is a fairly shallow dish, we are going to need to put in a decrease row. So what we are going to do for row 7 is we're going to do single crochet into the first 15 stitches. Just do a single crochet, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, this is slow. I'm trying to get to where there's 15. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. Alright, so now I have officially done 15 single crochets into row 7. And here, for the next stitch, after those 15, we're going to single crochet 2 together. And to do that, we're going to go into the first stitch and pull it through. And then we're going to go into the second stitch and pull it through. And then we're going to pull it through all 3 loops. And that just pulls that so that we've turned 2 stitches into 1 stitch. And I find that that just is going to pull up that side just a little bit faster. So now what we're going to do after we do that 2 single crochet together, we are going to go and do another 15. So go around 15 more stitches, and then we're going to do it again. Alright, so I'll meet you after 15 stitches. Alright, so I've gone around and done 15 more single crochets. Now we're going to do another single crochet 2 stitches together. So we go through the next stitch and pull through a loop. Then we're going to go through the next stitch, pull through a loop, and then pull through all 3 of those loops. So again, we've taken 2 stitches and turned it into 1. You can see, look at how the ridge is just so much more defined than it is over here. Probably see it this way. See how this is just kind of laggy, and this one now sticks up, and that's why we're doing this. Alright, so go ahead and go back around to the end. It should be 12 stitches until you leave the last 2 stitches. We're going to do it one more time. Do this 2 stitch together one more time. So I'll meet you over there. Alright, so I've gone around and I have 2 stitches left, and this is where I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw up a loop through the first stitch, then go to the second stitch, draw up a loop, and then pull through all 3. And then I'm going to chain stitch or slip stitch into that chain stitch. And now we have a fairly defined looking bowl now. Okay, so for row 8, we are going to chain 3, Oops. I have a big clump right here. For chain stitches, it's not the best, but it just worked that way. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I have a big clumpy chain, but it's all right. Now, in the top of each one of these single crochets, we're going to go around and do a double crochet. So we're going to go, and actually, not in that. Okay, so we're going to go here. We're going to go into the loop. Oops. We're going to go into the loop, yarn over, pull through, and then just do our double crochet. And I skipped one, so I'm going to go back and do that again. Alright, so what we're going to do now is just do a double crochet, so yarn over, go into the single crochet, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through 2. Alright, so to go ahead and go all the way around in each single crochet and do a double crochet. Alright, so I've gone all the way around. I did go ahead and put an extra stitch right here. Since this is a double crochet, I just wanted to add some stability. That's not in the pattern, but just wanted to let you know what I did. Then I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. And then we are going to chain 1, and we are almost done. So what we're going to do now for row 9 is we're going to single crochet all the way around. Then row 10 is also going to be a single crochet. So go ahead and do two rows of single crochet and then meet me back and I'll show you how to finish it off. I just completed row 9 and I was getting ready to end it, and I thought I would go ahead and just remind you that you need to slip stitch into that chain 1 stitch and then to chain 1 before you start row 10. Now row 10 is another row of single crochet, so you're just going to go around and through both loops or through the whole stitch, not back or front. There we go, I was pulling on it. And you're just going to do single crochet all the way around again, so that'll give you 2 rows. And then at the end of this row we'll do a finishing stitch and then we'll be done. So we're really close to being done. So go ahead and just single crochet into each of the single crochet stitches that you have from the last row, and we'll meet up at the end. So as we did with the other rows, to end this I did my final single crochet, and then we're just going to slip stitch into that. This is where it's going to be a little different. This is our finishing row, so I guess you could call it row 11. But what we're going to do is we're going to got my names mixed up there. Oh, hold on, let's chain 1 because it just gets crazy. Okay, so first now we're going to go ahead and we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to skip the stitch that we're working right in and go into the next one, and we're just going to do a slip stitch, and we're going to do that all the way around. Is just slip stitch into the single crochets. All this is doing is making it look pretty, kind of giving an edge to it. Sorry. So we're just going just a slip stitch. Let me do a couple more and then I'll kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. I always like to finish my projects off. I have a hard time just leaving them blah. And I don't do anything fancy most of the time, so let's see if you can see what that does to it. Okay, so see how it just kind of puts that extra stitching right here, and then it makes the top a little bit thicker. So it just looks pretty, I thought. So go ahead and slip stitch around the edge, and then when you get to the end, we'll come back and look at the final product. All right, so I've done my slip stitches all the way around, and now I'm just gonna tie it off. And then you'll clip this. I don't have my scissors right here, so. And this is about how much yarn I have left, so that's pretty cool. Sometimes after you get done, you just kind of have to form your bowl just a little bit. But that's basically what it looks like. I did make this just a little bit different than the one I showed earlier. I made it just a little bit bigger. Instead of, let's do it this way. Initially, when I started off with single crochets and I added doubles crochets instead. I thought I had enough yarn so I could make it just a little bit bigger. So that's why it's just a little bit bigger than that one. But it's so cute. And it'll be perfect for just sitting next to my bed and just kind of holding knickknacks, or a place to put the keys when I walk in from walk in the house. Anyway, still think this is a better project than the cowl. Just as an update, I did contact Darn Good Yarn about the fact that I had straw in my yarn, which I still do. After all the time I've been working with it, I still have straw in it. It's crazy. Anyway, I didn't know what to ask for. I mean, really what I'd like is this yarn not smelling so bad and not having straw in it. Other than that, I kind of like the yarn. But about this, they did address the smell, and they're like, leave it hanging in your shower or in a shower room, and that'll help dispel or get rid of the smell. But I've been working with this yarn, not just letting it hang loose. I mean, I've been working with it in an open space for a month now. It still has the odor. Although it's not as offensive now, it still is there. So I don't know, short of washing it, I don't know what it would have done to get rid of it faster. And I'm not even sure if that would have helped. But that's all their response to that point was. And they kind of, in the first email, they completely ignored the fact that I had straw in it. So I sent him back an email. I says, great, that's what I hear to do about the smell, and I've heard that before, but now what do we do about the fact that I have straw in the yarn? And they emailed me back and said they'd have to send it to a different department. Well, I'm still waiting to hear back from that department, so I'm not sure what they're gonna do. So if you're not willing to put up with the interestingness of this company, I have to say that I'm not a huge fan of the customer service. They're super nice, but they're just really evasive when it comes to trying to solve a problem. Probably because there were so many complaints on this yarn, because I've heard a lot. But still, just trying to address it, whatever. So there's the bowl with the little detail. That's why I put the double crochet in the middle there. It's just to give it a little bit of detail. So it's pretty cool. I like it. Let me know what you guys think. All right, later peeps.